Dick, I was remembering earlier today the UMass team that went to the Final Four back in 1996, and I'm curious if you think, like I started to think, that team had no respect. They were ranked #1 in the nation, and just a couple games before the end of the regular season, lost their first game. And people went in and said, but they haven't played anybody. And then, boom, in the regional final, you know, they turned some people's opinion around. Do you have any comparisons with what that team went through and what St. Joe's is doing?
Well, yeah, a little bit. It's interesting because in the regional final, they played Allen Iverson's Georgetown team. That was Allen's last college game. And a lot of people were really leaning to Georgetown, and those of us who had watched UMass all year knew that they had no chance, and UMass beat them by 20. Well, the one thing UMass did early, because Calipari had already established them, they got some TV games early. They actually played Kentucky in the first game of the year.
In the grade 8, right?
Yeah, yeah. So they'd already been out there. I think they got more respect, frankly, than this St. Joe's team has had, because they had been in the Final 8 the year before. They actually lost to Oklahoma State at the Meadowlands in '95. So they had something going for them, but I think because it was the Atlantic 10, it was just people couldn't believe it, as you said, even as it was happening. But yet nobody who has watched St. Joe's get to this point can possibly not believe that they're good enough now. It just, you know, that argument, I thought it was silly for months. It's certainly over now.
DJ, we're trying to figure out if we've already seen Allen Iverson's last game here, but that's a different story.
I got
Having said everything you've said, who's the favorite tomorrow?
Oklahoma State's favored by a couple of points, Phil. I think the early line was 2.5. And, you know, and that's fair because I think, again, it's a perception thing. They won the Big 12, which is certainly a better league than the Atlantic 10. They won the Big 12 tournament. And if you're doing that in that kind of a league, which still has 3 teams alive out of the last 12 in this thing, Kansas and Texas are playing tonight, that says a lot. So I have no problem with them being favored in the game. But that's not going to help them win. Interestingly, it's only the second time all year St. Joe's will not go into a game favored. The only other time was in their first game of the year when they played Gonzaga in the Garden, and Gonzaga was a slight favorite.
All right, Deej. You think they will win, St. Joe's? You think they will?
Michael, I filled out my bracket. You know how it ended, so you know what I'm picking.
If it ends your way, man, that'd be a huge parade. All right, DJ, thanks a lot. We'll check you over the weekend and Monday. Dick Jerardi from the Nets practice facility covering St. Joseph's. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Much more ahead regarding the NCAA tournament. We'll hear from Phil Martelli in the locker room pregame and halftime. We'll talk more about Oklahoma State. We'll also get into the Sixers. All that coming your way on Daily News Live, presented by your Nextel 5-star dealers. That is the Muddy Duck on the campus of St. Joe's University, City Line Avenue, right there, right off 54th Street. And I believe the fire code is for 50 persons. I'm unsure, but I think there's slightly more than that there.
Why are you trying to get them in trouble?
I'm joking around. It's more than that. And if you, I'll tell you what, seeing the sunrise over Secaucus is one thing, but the sunrise over the Muddy Duck.
I've never, ever seen the Muddy Duck.
Never?
No.
It's right there.
It's directly across the street from where they're building the new dorms.
Yes, right there. Right there.
Awful?
She's joking. She's seen
I have never
ever seen
Yeah.
Let's, you know what? We're going tonight to the Muddy Duck.
Dee doesn't frequent such places.
Good point. Good point. Let's show you the CSN poll for tonight's program. The winner of Saturday night's Elite 8 game will be the...
Are there more than 2 choices?
St. Joseph's Hawks, Oklahoma State.
Jeez,
I thought there was.
I wonder how that's going to go.
Well, I thought it was going to be like, we'll be the, national semifinalist.
There actually are 2 games that night, aren't there?
Yes.
Yeah, so there could have been.
There could have been something else.
Right.
How about, we've been hanging with the Hawks, as has the Daily News. Neil Hartman and Matt Howley have been up there. Dick Jerardi's been chronicling every single, they had Jell-O for breakfast and, all that kind of stuff.
Have we done an interview yet with the Trooper and Matt Howley?
Not yet. No, Matt Howley got pulled over on the way up there. But it's been interesting, compelling stuff, and included in that is last night, prior to the game, and then halftime. Here is Phil Martelli's pregame speech to his guys, and then at halftime.
Yeah, there's big stakes. This is just about what's inside of you. Taking what you want. Taking what you've earned. When this night ends, we know that it's going to be down to 8. And one of those 8 is going to be you. because you've earned it. You're that good, and you're going to go through another performance right now. We were a little bit frantic. So that's a sign of a young team, not an experienced team. Not as much experience as we have in this room. So it's imposed our experience and our will. We put ourselves on our heels the first 4 minutes. Now we go get these 4, and we get every single 4 now, right? If you want something, you gotta scratch and claw for it. Now let's go.
Pre and halftime, you know what I find interesting is there's little X and at least what we saw. Yeah. There's less X and O and more, you know, getting into the head and confidence.
Their experience was what was the difference in that second half. So, I mean, clearly you were seeing something. He saw it in the first half, pointed out. You can't make too many points. You know what I mean? You want them to concentrate on one adjustment or 2 adjustments kind of thing. I thought the greatest line that Phil had was after the game when he was interviewed by Nance and Billy Packer, and he was asked about Oklahoma State, and he said, you know, I don't really know much about them. I've seen them. I saw Pitt. You know, we don't look anything like them, but we play like them.
They sure do.
That was a great line. That was his last little
parting shot.
Yeah, that I don't have to do it in the way that's confrontational. But you know what? What could you say back to that? Because he's right.
Sure.
That line about imposing our experience and our will was on the marker board behind him. I was in the locker room last night after the game, and you know that clearly was the theme of the night for St. Joe's. And that room was so tight. It's basically a room that they use for referees, I think, in NBA and NHL games.
I think it's the room the Sixers are always in.
Yes.
It is. No, it is, Les.
Well, there's a visiting room that's much bigger than that.
They must have had an exorcism before they...
I'm telling you, that is the one that the Sixers is in. It's tiny, tiny,
It's about
tiny.
as big as this desk,
Yeah,
basically.
that's it, and they stick them in there.
It's amazing how they had to come back and win this game. Dick writes about it today, how they had to come back and win this game a couple of times. And I'm thinking a year from now, maybe this Wake Forest team could have stayed in there and managed to win it because they'll have that experience. But St. Joe's really, I was never that concerned because I thought these guys really proved it all season long and in this tournament and in that game that they weren't going to take no for an answer.
But they have to play better if closing out Oklahoma State. I mean, they had